poets! You recognize that tune? Those are the beats to the Cup song. And the reason that I'm starting off with that today is because we're going to be talking about part of our standard that talks about how words and phrases supply rhythm and meaning in a poem, in a story, in a song. And we're going to be looking at beats today. I know Miss Leslie has taught you all about the beat in music. It's usually the drummer and bass guitarist's job to keep the beat in a song. The beat provides the rhythm. Poets also use rhythm in poems. It comes from the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in words. The name for rhythm in poetry is meter. Meter is a multiple meaning word. It's a homonym. We talked about meter earlier in the year when we were learning about measurement. We talked about how we can measure things in meters. Well, meter, that's one use of the word meter. But meter also means the rhythm in a poem. So beat is the rhythm in music, and meter is the rhythm in poetry. We're going to look at some examples. So check out this poem that you probably are familiar with. It's actually a nursery rhyme. Jack and Jill went up a hill. Think about the meter. So in the meter, a meter is measured in poetry where you have a stressed and an unstressed syllable, and that's how we measure the beat. So let's look at this one. If you want to clap along, you can to hear which ones are stressed. When we say a stressed syllable, we're talking about the one that we put the most emphasis on. We put a little more force behind our words when we say it. And then when it's unstressed, you don't have that same amount of emphasis. You'll probably hear it when we read this one. So here we go. Jack and Jill went up a hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. So a lot of times with the water and the after part, we tend to stress both of those, but really it was written with a pattern of a stressed and unstressed, a stressed and unstressed. And if you were paying attention, you'll notice that there were 4 beats in that first line, 3 in the second, 4 in the third line, and then 3 again in that last line. And so we have that pattern of 4, 3, 4, 3. Not all poems are written with the same number of syllables in each line, and then that can change. So here's an example. To a butterfly, poet unknown. I've seen you now a full half hour, pretty upon that yellow flower. And little butterfly, indeed, I know not if you sleep or feed. So they're wondering about a butterfly that's just sitting there on the floor. Is it asleep? Is it eating? But you'll notice that there is a pattern to that poem as well. And the first line has 8 syllables. There's 9 in that second one, so it's just 1 syllable longer. And then the other 2 lines both have just 8 syllables. But when you read that poem, that 1 extra syllable in the second line, it doesn't feel clumsy or uncomfortable to us. And so it's okay for poems to have a little bit of a change in the number of syllables in that meter in each line. It's also important to note that not all poems are written with a meter, a rhyme scheme, or even a particular structure. Those are called free verse poems, and a lot of modern poets tend to use free verse. But if you're wanting to do a rhyme scheme, if you want to have a poem that has kind of that pattern to it, then it's really important to pay attention to meter. And a lot of poets that we're really familiar with use meter in their poetry. In fact, Dr. Seuss, who's one of my favorite poets, and I know it's one that you all tend to like a lot too, he is very particular and very careful with his word selection so that he has a really smooth meter in each of his lines. So listen to this first one. It's from the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And I really like this picture, this image of it, because it's showing you which words you are supposed to stress when you read it. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. Then here are two poems from Edward Lear. This first poem says, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. This second one is from the same book. It's also by Edward Lear. He is a poet from the 1800s, so a long time ago. And he wrote a whole book of limerick poems. And he named his book A Book of Nonsense. And this last poem is from that. There was an old man with a beard who said, it is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard. So limericks are a special kind of poem. They're often silly and they're fun, and they're written with a certain pattern. So the rhythm and the pattern is going to be the same every time you write one. And they're usually 5 lines in length. The first, second, and fifth lines rhyme with each other. And they also have the same number of syllables in each of those lines. And it's usually between 8 and 9 words. Or not words. Words are different than syllables. Syllables. So you can't write down 8 or 9 words because some words, as we know, have more than 1 syllable. So you count the syllables. The third and the fourth lines rhyme with each other, and they have the same number of syllables, usually 4 or 5, sometimes 6. Limericks often start with the line, there once was a, or there was a, and they tend to be kind of fun. So listen to these examples. This first one, I don't know who wrote it, but it's kind of funny at the end. There was a young girl on a tower who looked just as fresh as a flower. Her hair was like silk, her skin smooth as milk, but her breath made the strongest knights cower. Doesn't that start out as such a nice poem, and then at the end it's like, so funny. The next one is another example from Edward Lear. He wrote tons of limericks. There was an old man in a tree who was horribly bored by a bee. When they said, does it buzz? He replied, yes, it does. It's a regular brute of a bee. And then this last one, there once was a snowman named Scott. He didn't do well when hot. He was having some fun when out came the sun. And now our friend Scott is not. So after you've tried to write a limerick, here's another kind of poem you can try to write that follows a special pattern. Haiku. Haiku is an ancient form of Japanese poetry, and it doesn't usually rhyme, and it focuses instead on having 17 syllables in it. So they really focus on the number of syllables and how the syllables fall on each line. So haikus are made up of 3 lines. The first line usually has 5 syllables. The second line has 7 syllables. And the last line has 5 syllables. And again, remember, we're talking about syllables, not words. So sometimes it might have 5 words because they might be 1-syllable words, but you want to be careful. And so remember, when you are thinking about syllables, sometimes we clap syllables. In my class, we put our fingers under our chin, and every time our jaw dropped, we would count that's a syllable, because every time you say a vowel sound, that's what gives you syllables. And oftentimes haiku tells some kind of message, or they tell like a short moment in time kind of story. And oftentimes the focus or topic of haiku is nature. So I have a couple to share with you today. Since we just celebrated Earth Day, I thought this first poem would be perfect for us. It was written by Miranda Towler, and she said that it's her Earth Day haiku, what Earth Day means to me. And her title is Nature's Meaning. It makes happiness, the rushing, waving rivers. The earth means my life. And then these last two come from a book called Gaiku, A Year of Haiku for Boys. And it's written by Bob Ratzka and Peter Reynolds. And if you really like haiku, Dogku is another really good one. It's haiku poems about dogs. This first one says, "Mosquito lands on my cheek. I try to slap her, but I just slap me." And then the last one, "If this puddle could talk, I think it would tell me to splash my sister." Now notice in this second one that there's punctuation. So "mosquito lands on my cheek" is kind of one thought, but they really are careful about using a line break so that you have just those 5 syllables on top. So a line break is used in poetry to split a line. Like it says, line break. "Mosquito lands on my cheek." Otherwise, we'd read it, "mosquito lands on my cheek." And if we were counting our syllables, we would have too many for that first line. All right, poets. So now here's your mission. It's your chance to try writing a limerick or a haiku or both. And remember to post it on Flipgrid, to our poetry Flipgrid, so that we can enjoy your poems. And while you're there, make sure you're listening to the poems that your friends have written too. And if you really want to, you can respond. So since Miss Boyle is a good friend of mine, if I wanted to tell her what I thought about her poem, or if I wanted to read her a poem, I could respond to it by pushing this little button that you'll see when you're watching the videos. And then it'll pop up for you to record your own video. And if you go back in and you see your videos have one of these little bubbles, it'll be up in the top corner. It'll be like up on the side of your video. When you get up there, you'll see my face or your friend's face. Then you can read what they have to say about your poems. All right, poets, off you go.